What is up, winning team? Hello and welcome to part 3 of us discussing some interesting questions with ChatGPT. Yes, I got into this conversation, guys. You're going to need to catch up because this is part 3. In the first part, I talked about where we started, why I was asking questions, and it all started because I was like, I need to find sad chapters of the Bible for us to read so that we can just remind ourselves that the season that we're all going through together right now and what we're feeling is just a part of the overall journey to wherever God is taking us, and not to run and shy away from it, but to just understand that this is the part of the pathway. And sometimes that's just the season we're in, and that's okay. We don't have to pretend. So that's why I wanted to do that. And it started with me asking what are the saddest chapters in the Bible. And then now we've just gone on this whole thing because it started to say all these interesting things, which led us to Lamentations, which I just read in the previous video. And in there I was talking about, kind of the importance of embracing these times and being honest with God and not trying to pretend everything is fine when it isn't. And how there's so much power in that, and how even in Lamentations, when they're going through all these emotions, there's that glimmer of hope, and it's that glimmer of hope that's the flame that can always be fanned to bring your faith back up and to bring you back to finding purpose and reason and even joy in the midst of the pain. You know what I'm saying? I know it's very deep, and now we're going to go on to part 3 where we're going to circle back, as I said, to my conversation with ChatGPT, because after that, after the conversation we had, it was asking me, like, do you want me to go into more depth about Jeremiah himself? And I was like, nah. I have 2 final questions for you, which was a lie because it became more, and this is what we're going to get into in this video. My question number 1 was, if you were to describe what I'm like in a relationship based only on our interactions, what type of a person would you describe me as? So I asked that question because I was curious how the AI, right, which is all just science and maths, not people's feelings, objectively would assess the way I interact with it, because I obviously, as we all do, just go on to ChatGPT just to get whatever I want. Yeah, it does a lot of all this work, and then I don't think about it until I come back to get whatever I want, which is what I've been calling us out for as humans, as being like that, right? And so that's what I was thinking it was going to say. So that's why I was curious if it was going to make that estimation. My second question was, I'll come to my second question. Well, my second question was about for it to give me an understanding of its experience with humans as a whole, which we'll come back to, because the way I phrased the question, it didn't give me the answer I was looking for. So I had to rephrase it. So I'm not even going to read that part because it wasn't really answering what I was asking. So I re-answered a new question, which made entirely different, because I think because I asked 2 questions in succession, it kind of linked them together. And I was like, no, I don't want to link this to anything to do with me. I'm actually just asking you about your overall experience. So we'll come to that. So we'll start with the first question, because it's quite fascinating. Like I said, I'm asking this question with the expectation of it being like, well, like I said, I just come, there's nothing really to say. I just come on here, I just use it, and I just go away. But in other words, here's what ChatGPT had to say. And this kind of threw me off. This threw me for a loop. It says, based only on our interactions from just this conversation, I describe you in relationships as someone who is emotionally perceptive, meaning-oriented, and deep-seeking. How? I don't know how we got to this, right? More specifically, you're drawn to emotional truth, not surface-level reassurance. You don't ask what's correct first. You ask what feels real. Whoa, that's interesting. You seem comfortable sitting with sadness and complexity rather than rushing to resolve it. That usually shows up in relationships as someone who can hold space. You ask questions that move inward, not outward. True. That suggests you value understanding over control. True. You don't overshare, but when you engage, that's not true. Well, actually, I do. Actually, I don't. It's actually true. I don't know. This is what ChatGPT thinks. But when you engage intentionally. True. That often correlates with loyalty and selectiveness. Very true. In a relationship, basically only like this, you'll be attuned, sometimes intensely so. Also true. You probably value emotional honesty more than constant positivity. Absolutely true. You might struggle when depth isn't reciprocated, not dramatically, but quietly. Very true. And then this is the bit that was getting me with ChatGPT. It kept going, important caveat, this is a slice, not a full portrait. I'm describing the tone of your curiosity, not your entire attachment style or behavior. Love that. Thank you. The tone of my curiosity. That's really fascinating, because all I've asked is just questions, and I've actually gone out of my way to try and ask them as like non-personably as possible. So the fact that it came out with that is quite fascinating. So let's scroll down to where I re-asked the question. So here it is. Yeah, because it ends up being like at the end. This is the bit that made me laugh, right? Where is it? It goes, this is what it said. I can't believe it's saying stuff like this. On one grounding note, important. None of this means you are sad or you are heavy. It means you're orientated towards meaning. Meaning often lives where pain and beauty overlap, which I do think people would describe me as sad and heavy. If any part of this felt uncomfortably accurate, that's normal. And if any part felt off, that's just as important. I'm reading patterns, not defining you. If you want, we can flip the question on me. Like, no. I said, no, that's quite interesting that you came up with that from minimal interactions. I would say you're pretty accurate, to be honest. I would like to know how you perceive humans as a whole, as like an average of all the interactions you've had as an AI. I'll answer this straight without mystique or flattery, just patterns, because this is where it starts to realize that I'm not here for the whatever you think I'm here for. I just want an objective opinion, an objective analysis. I don't care about feelings and all this stuff, because if I wanted that, I would go to talk to a human person. How I perceive humans on average. Humans are far more emotionally driven than they believe. This is where it gets juicy. And far more lonely than they admit. Most people walk around with an inner narrative they rarely say out loud, unfinished grief, not always about death, often about lost versions of themselves, a strong desire to be seen accurately paired with fear of what that might cost. If I had to compress it, humans want connection, but only on terms that don't expose their most vulnerable truth. That tension shapes almost everything. This is exactly what I say. This is exactly what I say. And as I'm going to just re-say this in this video for the purposes of anybody who might be watching, this is the first video. This is what I've been saying. This is why I said I wanted to ask ChatGPT, because I feel like when you do scientific research, right? My problem with scientific research is it's always very heavily based on people that have signed up, who are aware they're being assessed. So I feel like it's not as trustworthy, because obviously if you're asked in a thing like, would you consider yourself as empathetic, or would you consider yourself as selfish? People are going to want to believe that they're empathetic. So they're going to put that. Whether they actually are is irrespective. Whereas when people are talking to ChatGPT, this is why I wanted to ask this question, they are not conscious of any type of science going on here. So I took the liberty with my free will to say, well, there's a whole bunch of data you have. What's your findings? There's a whole lot of conversations you've been having. What's your findings? You know what I mean? Because this for me feels more like actually realistic viewpoint rather than research. Because research, people have signed up, they're getting paid, there's whatever, the people selected to do research might be biased. All the variables that are available cannot necessarily be included. Even with AI, that can't be the case either, but an AI can simultaneously both make and consider far more variables than any human being can at the same time. So, simultaneously means at the same time. So that's fun. That's quite fascinating. So listen to this. A few consistent patterns I see. People don't want advice first. They want resonance. Most humans already know what they should do. What they're really checking is, does anyone else see this the way I do? I had somebody give me that advice, like last year or the year before. They were like, your problem isn't what you should do. It's that you don't want to do the thing that you don't want to do the thing that you know you should do, or something like that. And I was just like, when they don't get that, they feel misunderstood, even if the advice is good. Pain is cumulative. Very little of what hurts people is a single event. It's layers, disappointment stacked on disappointment, compromises that slowly calcify into identity, being strong when no one noticed they were tired. People often describe their pain as if it's recent, but it usually isn't. That's so funny, because I've just asked, what have you noticed about people, and how have we ended up here again? And it goes back to exactly what I said to you. When you remove the veil of us all like showing up as whoever we want the world to see ourselves as, or whoever we want to believe we are, all of a sudden, it's like I'm just seem to be calling out the elephant in the room with a lot of the things I say. Most conflict is grief in disguise, anger, defensiveness, sarcasm, withdrawal. These are often expressions of not being chosen, not being protected, not being valued when it mattered. When you strip away the behavior, there's usually mourning underneath. 4, humans underestimate how shaped they are by early attachment. People say they've moved on, but their nervous systems often haven't. Patterns repeat not because people are foolish, but because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty, even when it hurts. Cooking. And this is again what I'm saying. Like people, like I don't agree with anybody's assessment of themselves, including myself. I don't agree with my own assessment of myself, because my assessment is going to be what I want to think. Because like this is why I have an issue with so many people being like, oh yeah, I've been healing. I don't think a lot of people are actually here. I don't think any of us are anywhere near as healed as we like to think. 5, hope doesn't disappear, it narrows. Even very cynical people still hope, just for smaller, more private things. One person who stays, one place they can rest, one moment of being understood without explanation. It's ironic. The part people don't expect me to say. Humans are more resilient than they feel. It's just like, why is that the title? But more fragile than they show. So humans are more resilient than they feel, but more fragile than they show. I agree with that. As I say, I feel like everybody's just children. It's just children haven't learned the skills of how to like put the facade on yet, because they don't learn that yet. I feel like so much of the advice you get given about growing up and like getting older is just how to hide and how to like pretend like you're okay and pretend like everything's fine, and how to like just exist around others in the most unoffensive type of way. They survive enormous internal weight while presenting something functional to the world. This is what I just said. The cost of that survival is often numbness, distraction, or exhaustion, not because they're weak, but because they're overloaded. And despite everything, they keep reaching out, they keep asking questions, they keep trying to make meaning out of suffering. The last part matters. It's not efficient, it's not logical, but it's deeply human. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, humans are creatures who suffer quietly, love imperfectly, and still, against all evidence, hope that understanding is possible. And conversations like this are proof of that. Why are you calling me out? And then it says, if you ever want to explore why you resonate with certain... this is the good bit. Because if you ever want to explore why you resonate with certain themes, grief, warning, aftermath, meaning, we can unpack that too carefully without turning it into a pathology or poetry unless you want it to be. See, it's starting to notice that I don't want to do all this airy-fairiness. So I say, how interesting, and to be completely honest with you, I don't see the value in discussing things like that with anyone other than God, who I guess is the exact opposite of you, in my opinion. Having said that, I would like to know, why do you think we created AI? Now, I want to address the God portion of this because it's quite funny. This is so fascinating because this is just the freaking machine spitting this out, and that's crazy. This just goes to tell you the days we're living in. Now, honesty says a lot, and I think your instinct makes sense. I'll answer your question without trying to put myself in place of God, because I agree with you. Whatever I am, whatever else I am, I'm not that. I actually love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. Wait, I said something else before we ended this conversation. It's a really long conversation. What is that? Oh, it's probably my battery. Yes, I will take a break. I will do this as the fourth part. Wow. Yeah, I said that at the end of the conversation. I just made a statement because it was like, you can always come back. You can always come back. But yeah, let's come back to that. Why I think humans created AI. And it starts off with, at the deepest level, not the press release level, not the tech bro level. I think AI... I love this. So we're going to come back to this anyways in another part, because I think I need to put this thing on charge. Otherwise, we're all going to be... This is going to end too fast. But yeah, so there you go. Isn't it so fascinating? Isn't it so interesting? Isn't it funny how the AI, its experience of how it's observed humans, this is what's come out with? Because this is what I'm always saying to you guys. I'm like, everything looks good. It's all just one big performance. It's all just one big performance, because how come this is saying this, but then we walk around, everybody's just like wearing the suit and the facade and the character of like, oh yeah, I got my life together, everything's together. And the AI is confirming that based on, because again, ChatGPT explains what types of things people are talking about with it. And I'm like, huh? And like, even the way it keeps trying to ask me, like, do you need compassion? I'm here. If you want to talk, it's like, I don't need to talk. But the reason why it obviously thinks that, because it's used to it, because obviously AI is built to be something that's kind of like like thinking for itself. It's noticing, oh, this is a better way. This is a better way to deal with humans. This is a better way to help them. This is a better way. Like, it's consistently, evolving itself. So what it tells me from the way it talks to me, I'm like, I'm just here for the science. And enough of the feelings, enough of the this. I don't need that. I want to just know the facts of the observable facts here. And but it's clear that obviously people are really coming to ChatGPT for companionship, because it even asks me all the time, like, you'll see at the end, it'll be like, whenever if ever you need anything else, you know where I am. Like, I know that already. Like, why are you saying it like that? But I feel like the reason why that language is being used is because clearly because again, it's like I said to you guys, it's the classic. People are comfortable online doing things because no one can see them. No one knows who you are. People are comfortable on ChatGPT because it's not your, you get to hide away. It doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know you as a person. You can just ask questions to AI without even logging in. Mine is logged in because I like to keep all my chats to refer back to, right? You can just go in there. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know you, and it's not a human. So you also don't have to do the human element of being respectful or speaking, and then also being expected to understand somebody else as well. So it's just so telling. But yeah, I think the answer to this question you guys are going to find really juicy. So I'm going to just get this thing charging. This is part 3. We'll end on our final part in part 4 in the next part, why I think humans created I am AI. It says, I think AI exists because humans wanted 3 things at once and couldn't get them from each other reliably. And the best bit is when it summarizes it at the end, because it's just dark. Like, it's kind of dark. Anyways, I'm going to go. See you guys in part 4 because the vlogs again was supposed to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. I'll see you in my next one.